Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. I'm here as always with my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, how are you doing, mate?
Bro, I need a cigar.
Yeah.
Like, it feels wrong to be sat here with this shirt on. I don't even need to say anything on this podcast. The kit says it all. Mate, I've been wearing this shirt with like hoodies on over the top and everything like that. I'm like, damn, I can't believe I went and got Bertrand Traore in the back of my Villa kit. But now here, this is the one game of the season where, yeah, this isn't coming off. I'm going to be sleeping in this. Like, man, this is it. This is the attire for the next few weeks. Merry Christmas, everyone, because it's not going to get any better than this.
For those who are listening to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever,
Of course.
Dan is wearing his Traore home shirt, which has been very well documented that he got Traore on the back, obviously, at the time. Maybe a bit of a risky move, but who are we to say that now, Dan? He is donning it with Traore facing the front. So if you guys want to see that, I encourage the listeners to come over to YouTube and see that, because it is a sight to behold. Bertrand on Dan Wiseman's chest. Let's get that tattooed, Dan. Why not?
This needs to stay here permanently.
Because after today, mate, what a performance away from home. Aston Villa win their 5th game on the road this season out of 6. The third in which we've scored 3 goals. We've won it by 3-0. And I mean, Dan, we said before the podcast, we said off air today when we were speaking to each other, we did not have a good feeling about this, despite the sheer dominance against Burnley midweek with how well we performed. 28 shots, an XG of that game of 2.2, which is incredible. To leave that 0-0, we weren't feeling overly optimistic. Big Sam's first game, he had time out, but it was playing in the back of our minds. But Dan, we had nothing to worry about. Aston Villa had beaten West Brom by 3-0.
Yeah, man. Well, we play away from home, and we look right at home. Is the only way. But every time I watch us this season, we look so comfortable. I was a little bit nervous. You're right, mate, going into this game, because obviously the nature of it, the Burnley game. You know, I said on here, like, you know, if we go to the Hawthorns and play like we did against Burnley, then they're going to take their chances. Like, Allardyce had only ever lost one of his first games in charge of a new Premier League team, and he's had about 8 or something like that. And so all these odds were stacking against us, and all these stats were coming up on my timeline, and I was like, damn. But to be honest with you, mate, that early goal really set the tone, because if we'd have carried on missing chances after that Burnley game and it just sort of trailed on, then each chance, you know, it weighs a bit heavier and it starts to play on the player's mind. And I think the fact that we got that early goal really allowed Villa to sit back. And when we are in that position, and I know this is a bit of a luxury, but, you know, when we are in that position, we just look so good, because you can see the players just take a bit, you know, exhale a little bit. They get the ball on the deck, they play their natural game. And whilst, you know, it wasn't, you know, either half not the best that we've seen Villa play this season. We just looked so comfortable once we went a goal up.
We really did. An early goal within the 5th minute, Dan, set up by the man plastered on your chest, Bertrand Traore. It was a wonderful ball. And I thought, obviously, by the time Bertrand had cut in, which is naturally what he's going to do, he's an inverted winger, he's left-footed. You see him cut in, and he goes and does the fake back heel. And I thought instantly, he's fucked this. There's no way that anything good is going to come from this. But that second he bought with that little feint, it did so much for the move, because obviously he managed to spot the run of El Ghazi on the back post. And I think that was clearly the game plan. And I saw you tweet throughout the game, Dan. I thought I'd save it for the podcast, in that Villa are so heavily reliant on crosses, which is a fair analysis, I would say. But against a side like West Brom, you wouldn't have thought it would have been that effective. But we were constantly going for these across the defence, kind of aiming for the fullbacks, isolate them with the wingers, types of chances being created, and it paid off. El Ghazi, wonderful finish outside of his right boot to beat Johnson at his near post. That was his 3rd goal in 4 appearances against West Brom. He obviously went on and got his 4th in 4 later on in the penalty, but it was such a good finish. And I was saying at Villa Park the other day, I said it in my match spot, I said it on the last podcast, I said it to my dad, I said to you, Anwar was scoring today. He needed that 90 minutes against Burnley, get it all out of his system, get up to speed, because he's not played a full 90 minutes of Premier League football, or even just a length of time since the Everton game last season, when we thought he was dead and gone, to be honest, after missing that chance at the back stick. Anwar El Ghazi, I can't believe people ever doubted him, man. I tweeted it so many times. This man runs the Hawthorns. He owns West Bromwich. He has them on strings. He scores screamers against them, Dan. It was a wonderful goal to put us up. And as you say, set the tempo because Villa early on were pressing very aggressively. We had a lot of the ball. And it really, it didn't feel like we were facing against the Sam Allardyce team. And I think Allardyce doesn't necessarily get the plaudits he necessarily deserves for what he's achieved in the game and how he was actually quite key to revolutionising the game in terms of innovating with sports science, nutrition. He's very much at the forefront of that. He often gets plagued with this brush of Tony Pulis, Alan Pardew, David Moyes. You have to play a certain pragmatic way when you are a side that appoints Sam Allardyce, which is where I think the misconceptions often come from. But he... obviously, he's not had too much time, so we can't complain too much. But we probably played them at the right time, Dan.
Yeah, well, this is what I mean, mate. And it's like, when Big Sam usually, he comes into a club, they get that new manager bounce. And it was really satisfying to see us overcome that. I mean, just touching on the topic of Big Sam, I mean, this is probably the first Premier League game in history where you had two Brummie managers on the touchline.
Yeah,
which was quite
actually.
A nice
Graham Potter and Brighton.
Oh, of course. Yeah. There you go.
Almost.
Almost. But for Anwar, man, yeah. Well, this is he's scored in back-to-back away league games now for Villa. 3 goals in those 2 games. He only scored 2 in his first 34 away league games for Villa when he joined the club. So you've really starting to see him now pick up momentum and feel at home. And man, like, I love it with Trezeguet this season. I'm loving it with Anwar. When these players are playing, like, they've got a point to prove. And Anwar looks like a man on a mission that is out there to prove that he's better than the bench. And like, he wasn't even on the bench for some games, he was out of the squad as a complete entity. He's really forced his name back into the squad. And look, mate, I think we are now seeing a really good mindset within this squad, whereby you've got the likes of Trezeguet playing like this, you've got the likes of El Ghazi playing like this. And I think it's those kind of performances that are inspiring Traore to go and play like he's doing, because he's looking over his shoulder. And it's like, man, if Trezeguet keeps playing like this, if Anwar is scoring goals like this, then I've got to up my game. That goal really helped us get the ball on the deck. What a difference having Douglas Luiz back in the side, because, we're talking about how well we controlled the game and how well we were able to pass the ball around. He's basically the catalyst for all of that. He does so well defensively. He allows us to just stroke that ball through the midfield. Matty Cash never lead the side again. Having him and how good he is in transition, how fast he is, how such a good two-way fullback. Made a real difference getting him back in the squad. I think we were helped by the fact they went down to 10 men.
Of course, that would lend itself to the performance. Yeah,
naturally. But it's an interesting stat for you, mate, because if you didn't already know, Jack Grealish gets fouled quite a lot. Newsflash.
Really?
I know, crazy, isn't it?
Never thought.
But since the start of last season, Jake Livermore is the 4th player to receive a Premier League red card for a foul on Jack Grealish.
Wow.
Big stats. That's the most of, and whilst we're on Jack Grealish, just before I throw it back to you, mate, because I know you love waxing lyrical. Jack Grealish has created 38 chances from open play in the Premier League this season, which is the most of any player in Europe's top 5 leagues.
Wow. We love this. We love this from Jack. Honestly, I think if you're looking from the outside, and obviously if you're looking in isolation, Bertrand and El Ghazi got the goals. They're naturally going to steal the headlights. Relatively quiet game by Jack standards, playing in the middle. He is, I don't want to say restricted, because we've seen him fade out into these wide positions and stuff that he adapts where we know he's lethal, because we've seen the goal and assist output when he's played out on the left. But I think he has a lot more positional responsibility. He has to be a lot more disciplined in the runs he makes, what he does. We saw, I think, more of it in the second half. He's arriving late into the box. He's occupying these positions kind of centre left, whereby the ball is getting slid in by either Watkins or a McGinn or a Target, and he has defenders on strings, and that's his game. That's his best position. There was a few times certainly today I would accuse Jack of potentially holding the ball on for just a little bit too long. But listen, you can't be too critical of anyone in a 3-0 win, Dan, on the road away from home in a local rivalry. Aston Villa officially right now, Dan, as of recording, the kings of the West Midlands, beating Leicester
Run it
this
back.
season, beating Wolverhampton Wanderers this season, beating West Brom this season, all away from home.
Say it
So to
louder, Dan.
remain
Say
undisputed,
it
Dan,
louder.
we got to get these points at home next later on in the season. But as it stands, Aston Villa are the best team in the Midlands, and I mean we all know that anyway. But just to shush those Leicester fans that all of a sudden pipe up, and the Wolves fans on Twitter who were saying that they wanted Baggies to do us over. Your rivalry means nothing, man. That is a joke. But less
For
of that
sure.
and
Hey.
more on the performance, Dan, because it was brilliant. And as you kind of alluded to there, I think the sending off from Jake Livermore really did lend itself to Villa's dominance in the game, having that extra man. It was always going to be tough, and it was laboured at points. I think certainly kind of at the beginning of the second half, we were kind of like, okay, Villa, are you going for the jugular? It was kind of up in the air at the moment. It's very hard to break down. And again, to reference another tweet of yours, Dan, Villa have to be able to break teams down in the centre. And I think, in fairness, Dan, we did see that later in the second half with the goals as the game did get a bit more stretched. Allardyce wasn't afraid to change things. He reverted, I say reverted as if they were there, but he changed things up to a back three. He put on Callum Robinson and Charlie Austin. They really did try to chase that game later on. And that is where we saw Villa's killer instinct. And I think the patience certainly paid off. And Villa have come on so much because, Dan, we saw countless times last season against teams like West Ham and that we played against 10 men. Villa couldn't kill a game off. Villa are now able to effectively manage 90 minutes of football and see out a result. And there's just so much growth. It's honest. It's so good, Dan. And just to throw it back to you, I just think that's how I see Villa have evolved so much, because I think, last season we see Villa, they throw the kitchen sink at it, but it's desperate. It's last ditch. It's panicked. But Villa remained in control the whole game, and despite West Brom not having a shot on goal, they had 2 or 3 counter attacks in which they looked kind of dangerous, from Villa maybe being a little bit lax here or there, being easily dispossessed. Douglas Luiz, Matt Target, on the occasion, which was very out of character throughout the whole 90. But seeing Villa able to control a game like this, it's a derby game as well, and then score 2 goals later on, that's huge, Dan. It's so big for Villa.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And we have to translate this form into home form as well, because it's not just
Absolutely.
good enough that we go and do this away. It's important that you touched on that. But mate, you can't be too critical of this. I didn't think, as I said at the top of the pod, I didn't think the first half or the second half was anywhere near to the best we've seen of Villa this season. It was a little bit frustrating at points because we do have to be able to break teams down. We have to be able to play in a different way. And yes, I know we've lost Ross Barkley, and he is that sort of centralized threat. But you'd like to think that given that he's only a lone player, and that at the moment there's no we would love to see it, of course, but there's nothing to say that he will sign permanent. You'd like to think that there will be other tools in the squad whereby we can unlock deep blocks, because teams are learning now, I think, and teams will start to set up when those lesser sides that are below us in the league. That's the way you can potentially try and get points against Villa. Is that we do struggle to break down these sides, and as the games wore on, I think because they were playing with 10 men, they got a little bit more tired, and those pockets of space opened up, as you said, and enabled Villa to first of all get the offside goal, which obviously Ali put away, and then go on and get a couple more. But what's really encouraging, mate, is that the table reads nicely. We're sat in
Very
ninth.
nicely.
We're on the same amount of points as Chelsea, and we've played a game less. We're 1 point behind Man City, who have played a game less. Everyone's talking about Southampton this season, and including me, mate. I love watching Southampton, but we're only 2 points behind them. We've got 2 games in hand on them. But again, mate, now we're getting into a business end of the season. The festive period is going to hit us hard. We go into Palace on Boxing Day, which is live on the BBC. That's a massive game. And then after that, we've got Chelsea, Man United, Liverpool in the FA Cup, Spurs, then Everton. Big,
Some really
big
big
games, man. And this feels slightly reminiscent of the start of the season. And I remember saying this to you on the podcast. We went and beat Burton 3-1. We went and beat Sheffield United. We went and beat Bristol City, beat Fulham. And then it was like, right, now we've got Liverpool, Leicester. This is when we're going to find out what Villa are made of. And we stood up well in those games, stood up very well in the Liverpool one. And I think what is good is we go into those games with a defence that we can rely on, mate. And then again, I love talking about this podcast about how reliable they are at the back. West Brom's XG in this game was 0.02.
I can't believe you brought that up, Dan.
Shut out. I know. This is the only
Wow.
time. Mark this word. Kids on backwards. Me talking about XG. This is rarity.
Literally.
Bookmark this one. Bookmark this one. 0.02 XG. There, mate. That's one for you, I think.
Absolutely. That's in my notes. I was actually going to bring that up. But listen, it's amazing. And obviously, West Brom, I think it's a bit too much for Big Sam to keep them up. It's going to be really difficult. But it can't be understated how important the win is. We'd seen them battle hard to get a very, very good point on the road against Manchester City. They had a 3-3 draw at home against Chelsea, which I think, if I'm correct, that's the last time they've scored more than one goal in the Premier League, which was a stat that could have potentially come back to haunt us. They also brought on Branislav Ivanovic, curse of the commentator. The most goals he scored against the Premier League team is Aston Villa. You're thinking, brilliant, they're going to get a jammy set piece. It's not going to be very nice. Villa overcame the adversity here, and that is, I think, that the main thing. Like, we can analyze the games, and we can analyze the goals, we can analyze the possession, we can look at the XG. But the progression is this isn't just about numbers. You can see it in the squad, in the results. It's so good, and it's come at a vital time because this Palace game is by no means going to be easy. Dan, they did get tonked 7-0 by Liverpool, which, conceding 7 goals, there's nothing to be ashamed about. You just have to ask Liverpool about that. They conceded 7 goals against us in a game, but they're gonna come back with a response. Dan, hopefully we may have a special podcast to go a little bit deeper on that, but you guys will know about that if and when that happens. But just to briefly touch on it, Dan. In fact, no, we won't talk about that. I want to talk about Bertrand Traore's goal. Wow, that was brilliant. That was masterful. We can't talk about it. It's on the shirt. Look at me trying to end the West Brom talk, man. That guy, so nonchalant.
Jeez.
He passes the ball in the net, Dan. He passed the ball in the net. The run from Ollie Watkins was so smart, obviously taking a jai away from him, and Johnston's expected him to just absolutely rifle that in the top corner. What does Bertrand do? He just trickles it in, man, with ease, honestly. So much sauce, man, that to have the audacity to try that as well. At this, that could have cost Villa if he'd have missed that, Dan. If he misses that, it's still 1-0. Branislav Ivanovic extends his goal scoring run against Aston Villa later on, potentially with a corner. There's so many if buts and maybes, but it was so important that Bertrand did that. He supplied the sauce. What a goal, Dan.
Yeah, bro, give me 2 minutes on this one.
Of course, this
man,
is all you, man.
I'm just so happy for the guy because, I've been, going at Villa fans on Twitter at a point, man. You need to give this guy time. He's gonna do it. You only have to look at his record of, he's played for Chelsea, he's played for Ajax, played for Lyon. You don't bounce between those two clubs unless there's something about you. And I think it's going to take him a little while to settle in. Let's not forget, I think a lot of fans have looked over this, the fact that Ligue 1 didn't restart.
Yeah.
And so he wasn't included in Lyon's Champions League run either. So
and that comes, sorry to interfere there, Dan. That again comes back to the El Ghazi criticism. He's not played a lot either. These players need to play.
It takes time. You can't just expect players to step into a fold and bang, hit the floor running. Traore had come into a completely new team, into a completely new league, players he'd never played with before or anything like that, into a completely new system. Hadn't played since March when Ligue 1 was cancelled and they finished the league. Didn't play with Lyon in the Champions League run, as I said. Comes into this Villa side, takes a few goals, but he got that goal against Bristol City, which was really good. And he only scores worldies, apparently, man. So, in the comments below, I'll expect apologies. It's fine. If you message me personally, I can give you my address if anything any handwritten apologies or anything like that. Emails for any PowerPoints. I just let me know, guys, because I'll accept all kind of apologies.
Likewise for
I'm just happy
Anwar.
for the
Likewise for
content.
Anwar, man.
Yeah,
Honestly,
exactly, man.
like,
Exactly, man.
if any,
Villa
like,
Villa podcast. You need to trust us, man. You need to trust us. Me and Dan know.
we have eyes. It's the eye test. Everyone in the comments is like, nah, I trust my eye test. Nah, just our eye test, man. Like, you know,
We
Wesley
know.
Filler. We
We
won't
know.
bring up Wesley though, because that is always a
Not yet.
contentious
His hat
subject.
trick's coming. His hat trick's
Mate,
coming.
we'll give that time. We'll give that time. But listen, I'm just gassed, man, and like, I know it's a minority, and I don't want to tarnish all Villa fans with this brush, but man, you guys who are out there abusing Anwar, abusing Courtney, just check yourselves, man. Like, look, these guys have come in. Yeah, Courtney should have scored against Bristol. There's no denying that. But if you know Courtney Hawes, you know that he heads balls with the top of his head. He is incapable of attacking a ball with his forehead. We're just going to have to live with that. Ezri Konsa would have scored that. We all know that. But that's just not how Courtney attacks balls. It's a shame. Get over it. We drew the game. But this is a centre-back partnership, Dan. May I remind you, that played in the Championship. It was a joke that we had Tyrone Mings in the Championship. Let's be real. But these are two players who played together in the Championship, and they've kept a clean sheet in the Premier League not only once but twice. They've looked imperious against strikers who you would expect to play a very direct way. Obviously, we know with Burnley, like 40% of Nick Pope's passes are long balls up to Barnes, J-Rod, those kind of players. So they had a serious task on their hands in the last game. Didn't necessarily have as much to do today, but another clean sheet is going to do them the world of good. You got to remember as well, Dan. Courtney left Wolves to play football, and regardless of the fact that Ezri Konsa is a better centre back, certainly has a higher ceiling than Courtney Hawes. Again, no Courtney slander. This is the Courtney Fuller podcast, man. I've been in his corner since day one. You guys check the podcasts. I've been on this guy, man. Like, I love Courtney, but that does him so much confidence. The fact that he's trusted to step in. Bjorn could have played. We've gone with, I believe Courtney's left-footed. We've gone with two left-footed players, which ultimately does affect the balance of the team, whether you see it or not. But listen, they didn't look out of place whatsoever. Courtney Hawes did not as well. His defensive headers, his clearances are second to none. So yeah, just a shout out to Courtney and Anwar. And you'd have thought, Dan, with Trezeguet and Douglas Luiz, Villa fans would have learned to stop writing players off this early. It's a joke, man. But listen, that's the last of my complaining. We won 3-0, Dan. Crystal Palace is up next. Before we do end the podcast, just a few brief thoughts on Palace, because I'm expecting this one to be really tough. It's at Villa Park on Boxing Day, as you said. BBC, wow, that's amazing. That's special. That's something to remember, to behold. There's going to be a reaction. Roy Hodgson just kind of sat and admired really what Jurgen Klopp did, and Klopp had the audacity to say the better team lost. That guy is a joker, honestly. But I'm expecting this to be very tough. As I've said, Palace are a bit of a bogey team, to be honest, Dan, aren't they, for Villa?
Yeah, but we as I said, it's all about going back, and the fact is that we have started doing this at Villa Park now. And
yeah,
I mean, the other good thing is that we play Saturday, Monday.
Weird.
Nuts. First of all, but no, Palace ain't gonna be a write-off, man. Like, when they have a point to prove, and when they need to show people that they can go and play this season, they have.
Yeah.
I'm going to run it back. Go back to October. They lost 2-0 at Wolves. They were played off the park. They finished with 10 men. The next game at home, bang, 4-1. They win against Leeds. Go back a couple of weeks ago to that dreadful game against Newcastle. They lost 2-0 at home, threw it away in the last few minutes. They were piss poor in that game. The next game, they beat West Brom 5-1. They then go and get a draw at Spurs, a draw at West Ham. And so, yes, they've gone and lost 7-0 to Liverpool, but Liverpool were absolutely mesmeric in that game. Crystal Palace, I don't think, played particularly badly in the first half, especially. But I remember at half time, both sides had 3 shots on target. Liverpool had 3 goals. Crystal Palace had 0. It's just a matter of being clinical.
Yeah.
They're going to want to come into this game aware of how we play at Villa Park, and they're going to have, I don't think they're going to have their tails down. I think they're going to make it difficult for us. I am going to get slightly emotional seeing Benteke play, To be honest
I
with
mean,
you.
he's in form at the moment, man. Obviously,
He's
he's
playing well.
he's served his suspension for a trailing elbow, which is vintage Benteke's, to be honest. That is the kind of thing you could get away with when he was in his prime. But the game has moved on somewhat. There are incompetent people sat in Stockley Park reviewing these things. I mean, I'm not defending it. It was definitely a second yellow card, wasn't it, for Benteke and that little trailing elbow? But he's going to come back. He's in the, he's recapturing this form that he last had at Villa. He's going to want to score against us, Dan. He really is.
No, for sure, mate, and that's something that we have to be wary of. Please don't ruin my Christmas Christian. Wow,
There
hey,
you
there you
go.
go. All kind of festive happenings. Please don't do it. I wouldn't be able to take that. But no, mate, we have to be optimistic going into this one now. We have to start taking it back to Villa Park. Defend home court, and I don't see any reason why we can't do that. The good thing is I think Crystal Palace will come to Villa Park to play. I don't think we'll be breaking down the same deep blocks that we've seen in our last two games. I think Palace will come to Villa Park, want to play their own way, get Wilf on the ball, do damage of their own. And so I think that actually lends into a more of an open transition-based game, helps Villa.
Absolutely. You've seen Villa do well when they are actually the side that has less possession and is looking to counter, essentially. Look at the Arsenal game. Look at the Liverpool game. The pressure was absolutely not on Villa. And they exploited the weaknesses of both of them sides, respectively, Dan. I'm going to throw you off scent, Dan, and I'm going to go and give you a score prediction. I'm going to say it's going to be 1-1 for this game. It's going to be, as long as Villa don't lose, I don't think I'll be mad because, as you alluded to earlier, very tough running coming up soon. It's important that the squad comes out of this unscathed. We're still without Ezri Konsa, who is out with illness. I hope it is just a cold, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. And hopefully, Dan, there may be a special bonus podcast. You never know. Tomorrow, or depending when you guys listen to this, there may as well be a transfer rumour mill out on a few players that Dan and I have done. So if you guys have enjoyed this podcast, we would really appreciate it if you guys would check that out and listen to our thoughts on the players that we discussed there. It would mean the world. January's coming up. It's that time of year. Rumours are flying about. We're here to cover them. We're here to see how these players will fit in. So please watch that if you haven't, if it's out. And if you're listening to this, watching this on YouTube and you're not subscribed, please do. We're 3,200 subscribers, which is absolutely amazing. But please, I'm begging. There's 46% of you guys who watch the podcast who aren't subscribed. And we appreciate all of you guys who do watch, who do listen on whatever medium. It would mean the most if you guys did subscribe and hit the bell button so you get notified every single time Dan and I upload a video or a podcast. But on that note, Dan, I think it's time to end this. We need to get this one out. It's getting a bit late now. Hopefully, there is plenty of interest in this game still, as Aston Villa did win 3-0. So I'm hoping so, Dan. Any final words from yourself, mate?
Yeah, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
We will get that transfer rumour, but that's pre-recorded. So this is the closest recording you'll hear to Christmas.
Yeah, that's true.
So Merry Christmas, everyone. Sorry about the news the other day. It's a bit rubbish, but hopefully we can still get, you can still do your little bubble things on Christmas Day, have your people around. Enjoy it, man. This year's been crap. Thank you for everyone that's listening. A special Merry Christmas to all those subscribers and not to those 46%. We're going to go full Scrooge on you guys, unless you subscribe, and then a Merry Christmas. But no, thanks to everyone, man, and have a good one this year.
Absolutely. Yeah, just to reiterate that point, thank you guys for your support. If you enjoyed this podcast, hit a like, comment your thoughts below. Do you think we're going to beat Crystal Palace? We'd love to know. And subscribe if you haven't. Up the Villa.